When the source is 0, I'm done. Good afternoon, class. We had looked at earlier on the rules for drawing ray diagrams. And now that we're on the lenses, we are looking at convex lens, and we want to see for different positions of the object, how is the image formed? Therefore, you will have to follow the instructions as I mentioned them. But what is very important is you look at the captured diagram. For different positions of the object, we have definitely different positions of the image formed. And the different position of image formed gives us the different natures of images that are formed. Would like to first and foremost begin with the objects at infinity. How is the formation of an image when the object is at infinity? And we now move from there, we shall move towards the lens up to when the object is between the focal point and the lens. Class, what is very important is that there is a reference point. On this diagram, the reference point is that dot which is circled, looking yellow. And that point there is very important for us because it is the focal point. And when we move from the lens to that point, it gives us the focal length. When we move from that point twice that distance, it gives us the center of curvature. Beyond twice that distance, perhaps where the plus sign is, which is green, will be beyond center of curvature. And much more beyond that will be at infinity. Therefore, we would like to start with the position of the object at infinity. So therefore, I will slightly move the object at infinity. I'm trying to see how best I can move this object to infinity. There is the object. They are moving the object to infinity. Let's assume now the object is at infinity. We now see how the image is formed. That is where the image is formed, and it is behind the lens. Yes, that one. And you can see when the object is very far, extremely very far, the image formed is near the lens. And now let's try to move the object towards the lens, but to a position which is beyond the center of curvature. That position where we are is now slightly assumed to be beyond the center of curvature. And you can see the position of the new image that is formed. It is slightly beyond the focal point, but behind the lens. You can now begin to realize that when we are at infinity, the image formed was between the focal point and the lens, which is behind the lens. Now we're going to move to the center of curvature. When we drag this object towards the lens at the center of curvature, which is around here, you can see there is a characteristic evidence that the distance between the object to the lens is the same as the distance from the lens to the image. This is a very unique phenomenon where the size of the object is exactly the same as the size of the image. And this one you should not forget. If you forget this, then your mother doesn't like you. Now, you can still observe the observation we made earlier on that when we move closer to the lens, the image moves away from the lens, is still continuing. We are now going to continue to the focal point, that yellow circle. You can see what is happening. The image is already running away. When the object is at the focal point, the image is extremely very far away from the lens. Something very interesting now, that when we now move between the focal point and the lens, just look at what will happen. As I drag this object between the focal point and the lens, you can now see where the image is formed. Is there anybody in this class who can tell me where the image is being formed? Yes, Alex? Very correct. You realize that at this point, the image is formed at infinity. And this is exactly what I wanted you to see. How do you confirm image formation at infinity? Earlier on, when the refracted rays converge to a point, that is conclusively that an image has been formed. But in this situation, you realize that there's no convergence. Instead, the refracted rays are diverging, meaning that they will not meet. That gives us an evidence that the image formed is at infinity. Now, at your own free time, try to see when the object is exactly at the perpendicular plane with the lens. Then you will see what we shall now continue from here in the next lesson. Thank you very much. Have a nice lunch.